I am a longtime caretaker at a small country museum that features a variety of artifacts and exhibits of local significance. My shift starts in the evening and lasts until morning, when the museum is closed to visitors. It's usually a quiet and peaceful place where rarely anything happens. But one night, everything changed. It happened at the beginning of March. The weather was cold and windy, and it seemed to me that the nights had gotten longer and darker. That night I got on shift as usual and went around all the halls checking the exhibits and locks. Everything was in order. Around midnight, I settled down in the small guardhouse with a cup of hot coffee. Suddenly, I heard a strange sound coming from the main hall. It was a quiet but distinct tapping, as if someone was tapping on the glass. I decided to check what was going on in there. When I entered the hall, all the exhibits were in their places, and nothing unusual was visible. I thought that maybe the wind was making a noise, and was about to go back inside when I suddenly noticed that one of the glass cabinets was ajar. This cabinet was special. It held an old doll that had been found in one of the abandoned houses nearby. The doll looked very old and shabby, with faded eyes and broken limbs. It was said to have belonged to a girl who had disappeared years ago under mysterious circumstances. I walked over to the closet and saw that the doll was out of place. It was standing closer to the edge of the shelf, and its head was turned directly toward me. I froze, feeling a chill run down my spine. Suddenly, the lights in the hall flickered, and I heard a quiet but distinct whisper. "Play with me." I bounced backward, hitting my back against the nearest cabinet. The light flickered even more, and I felt something cold touch my hand. Turning my head, I saw the doll that was now at my feet. How had she gotten here? My heart was racing, and I was about to run out of the hall when I heard the same whisper again, but now it was coming from the doll itself. The words were barely audible, but I understood their meaning. "Don't leave me." I gathered all my courage and lifted the doll. Her eyes looked straight into mine, and for a moment, I thought they were moving. I could feel something strange and sinister emanating from this toy. Not knowing what to do, I decided to lock it back in the closet and tried to forget about what had happened. But as soon as I got back to the guard room, the lights flickered again, and footsteps sounded in the hallway. I looked at the monitor that showed the security cameras and saw that the doll was out of the closet again, and a small figure was slowly moving through the museum. It was the same girl the local legend spoke of. Her ghost was wandering the halls, and she was holding the doll in her hands. She approached one of the cells, and looking directly at me, whispered quietly, "Now, you will stay with me forever." I ran out of the museum that second and sat in a cafe nearby until dawn. I was so horrified by what had happened that I was speechless for a while, and I couldn't say anything to the waiter, who, reading the horror in my eyes, asked if I was all right. But I just nodded. I looked ragged, unshaven, and maybe he thought I was crazy. After a while, he brought me coffee, but the whole time I didn't even touch it. I don't even remember what thoughts were running through my head. By the morning before the superintendent came, I went to the door without going inside. She came literally 3 minutes later, which was a big relief for me. By the time she arrived, I had calmed down a bit. We had a few words and said goodbye. The same day I submitted my resignation papers, and since then, I haven't worked in this museum anymore. And thank God I never heard about the fate of the doll and the girl I saw on the cameras that unfortunate night.